Welcome to Exposing the Hidden Reality. I'm Annette, career reinvention coach and caffeine-powered human.
And I'm Sandra, women's life and leadership coach. I bring the woo to our conversations.
And this is the podcast where we call out all the unspoken stuff, biases, outdated expectations, and all the things women navigate in work and in life.
Yes. We bring to light what we see happening. Smart, capable women stuck in the same patterns because no one really talks about what's going on.
We'll bring some difficult truths.
Welcome, insightful experts.
And sprinkle in a little chaos and fun.
It wouldn't be us if we didn't, right?
It's true.
So whether you're walking the dog or tuning in during your commute, we're glad you're here. Let's do this.
Let's do this. You want to do the let's do this together? Like 3, 2, 1, let's do this. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. Oh my gosh, we tried to say that together so many times. I can't even tell you the amount of times we tried. So we just left it in. We're so excited to have our very special guest join us today. And if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll get started.
Perfect. Thank you for having me. My name is Mirjana Arlaud. I'm the founder and CEO of Future by Design. We are a creative agency that specializes solely in sustainable development and innovation, and we provide creative solutions to various organizations and brands across the world and help them communicate better their messages. I'm originally from Serbia, but I lived abroad for a very, very long time, from Italy to Denmark to Turkey, and now I'm based in Paris. So thank you so much for having me with you today.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So how did you go from, I'm assuming, a traditional, like kind of 9 to 5 kind of job to this global agency owner and having this big presence across the world?
I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So my parents, that was just the spirit I grew up with. And my parents' companies were always a part of the family. So it was always just very exciting. I was working as a child, I was always on the sideline somewhere. And I was traveling with them around the world when they were actually attending some fairs. So as a child, it's just something you're exposed to. So I think that was always kind of the behavior that I was looking at, something that I was drawn to. And after finishing finance and banking, I decided to do double masters actually in Italy and Denmark. And so after that experience, I started, as you said, kind of 9 to 5 job. I worked for United Nations in Copenhagen, and that led me to actually get promoted in the UN. And then I moved to Istanbul. And so for almost like 9 years, I stayed there with the UN. But then I've seen just that I was co-managing a global initiative on introducing more sustainable practices in the global health sector. And from everything that we've done, we raised millions of dollars for our work. We strengthened partnerships with numerous governments, academics, etc., with companies. I really traveled everywhere. I always loved the best showing impact on the ground and how we really changed the realities for so many people, and why funding these programs and initiatives were very important in the first place. And that was kind of falling short, at least in my opinion. And I thought, well, this could be done maybe with a bit more heart, with a different angle. And so I decided to step out from working for the United Nations and actually establish Future by Design and bring together a group of writers, storytellers, designers, animators, creatives, and just depending on the project and what organizations needed, help them tell their story of their impact and help them raise more funds to work on that.
That's incredible. What does it mean to be sustainable in healthcare?
Oh, in healthcare, wow, there's a range of different topics. And I can tell you that a lot of organizations, academics, etc., kind of take it from different angles. It can be anything from which energy sources, companies, for example, are using for production. If we're talking about pharmaceutical production, it could be also looking at how they're managing the active pharmaceutical ingredients. If they're going into the environment, it depends also where the sites are located and what the regulations of the governments are. So you can look into the human labor rights as well. Is there any child labor involved? Is there any enforced or illegal labor? And so yeah, it's very, very broad, very detailed. We organized number of trainings across the world with different procurement officers who work for the governments to help them understand how to tackle these different issues and how to embed them in their processes. Because for an organization such as a governmental organization, for something to happen, they need to have it in the official documents and kind of screening procedures, etc. So yeah, as part of my work, I also worked on that angle, kind of helping them embed what sustainability would mean for them, or depending on the organization. But yeah, it's very, very complex topic, and it involves a range of subjects.
That's fascinating. I never would have thought of some of those topics as being, I mean, clearly important things, but I wouldn't have thought of them as being part of the medical delivery process. I think it's at least in my mind, I can understand issues like child labor being associated with maybe textiles or in manufacturing, but I never think about it from the perspective of pharmaceuticals, and I can totally see how that could.
There's also surgical instruments, for example, and depending on where the country you're sourcing from, is kind of what is the country's attitude towards labor, and what is considered that it's fine for children to work within families, etc., and it's not appropriate for other countries and per the rights of children. So yeah, but there are, for example, even things that people wouldn't necessarily think about is like the nets that are distributed across different countries in the world, excuse me, to protect anyone who is sleeping underneath against mosquitoes, in case they're carrying malaria, etc. Some of the communities or families, they would be using these nets later to fish, and they have pesticides on them. So there's another environmental concern. So it's an ever-evolving subject.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I hadn't considered any of those. Yeah, for sure. So you were, I don't want to say frustrated, I don't know if that's the proper word, but you were not thinking that your work at the UN was making the impact you had hoped it had. So then you turn and say, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to open my own business. Of course, you said you had great role models growing up. So what did that look like for you? What was that decision process to walk away from this high profile role and say, I'm going to create something of my own?
It's not easy, I can tell you that for sure. And I mean, I've spent a lot of, hours and days and months like thinking about it and really planning everything and how that would roll out. And I started decreasing my engagement with the UN at the same time while I was growing the company, because one thing that always happens with, especially startups right at the beginning, is that if you fully rely financially on the startup, then you kind of kill the dream of what it could be. So I didn't want that to happen. So I still had constant revenue at the same time, working as a consultant for the UN at that time, just to make sure that I can fund completely the company without requiring the company to pay me for my time. So it actually took quite many years to make sure, like, okay, now it's the moment that I will actually also be embedded fully in the company 100% of the time. But that's just because I really wanted it to succeed. And yeah, as a decision itself, it hasn't been easy. And one thing that I promised myself is that I will not use a single contact I made during my UN days, because I did not want anyone to come back later and to say that, there was a conflict of interest or I used those connections, etc. I really went like clean slate, carpe diem. I really said like, okay, we're going to work with different organizations, different teams. And it's fun because you start building something with a company that just was open, established. So yeah, then you start building the name from there. But even if there were some voices and saying, well, there's so many other agencies that are doing the same, I said, well, I believe that we can approach this in a different way and really focus on people and putting people first in everything that we do, whether it was writing stories or conducting interviews or making global campaigns, etc. And it really worked out, because very fast we started landing like really amazing projects with United Nations agencies, with the largest climate funds. So yeah, we must be doing something well.
Oh, totally. Wow, that's so. I know what it takes for me to get up every day and run my own business, and I'm just dealing with Northeast Ohio. No languages. I mean, there are a few language differences, but culturally, and just even the way you greet people and how you, just the expectations of social communication across countries and ethnicities and cultures. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And much less trying to run a business through all of that.
Right.
That is true. I think that definitely working for the United Nations has been such an amazing opportunity, because, as you said, just having different mentors from different cultures really, really shaped, I believe, in a specific way of how I approach work and how I approach people. And I think something that was driving me was always trying to find people where they're at and what makes them most comfortable, in which way to approach work and receive feedback, etc. So yeah, it has been a really invaluable experience. And so that's why, while we have our headquarters in Serbia, we do have representation here in Paris, in Cape Town, South Africa, and Istanbul, Turkey, which has been really lovely. And we also have clients from South Korea to United States and all the continents across. So yeah, quite a global coverage.
Phenomenal. And how do you think being a woman either gives you an advantage, or how do you experience bias in your role?
I'm very, very deeply motivated and always stood for women empowerment and women rights. And that was one of the core values I had when I established Future by Design, that we will always try to advance women empowerment through our work, whether within the agency. And I believe that we're like 85-90% women at Future by Design. And we always try to, again, really meet them where they're at. And if they're on a maternity leave or they're right now with their child who just started nursery, give them a bit of extra space and flexibility in how they approach their work, just because that's what they need right now. Being a woman, it hasn't, again, it hasn't been easy, I would say, but I always stood my ground and I always believed in my worth. And I know it's not enough just to say it. I know that many women would believe, but simply the context and the environment would not allow them, right, to fulfill their opportunities. But as you see, that United Nations always said, even in 2025, it depends where you're born and if whether you can survive or thrive. So I think, at least from that side, I consider myself lucky to have been able to have access to really high quality education. And I have had really support from my family. And later in life, my partner has been always very supportive, both in bringing up our family, and we have two lovely boys who are under age of 5. So building a company also while having small children hasn't been an easy feat. And I've seen a lot of also young women who worked for United Nations, and you experience a lot of bias, but you try to, again, just say, I'm here professionally to do my work. Either you're going to work with me or or this is not going to work and I'm going to find another way. But yes, I mean, I recall I even had situations where I was promoted. I came back to the office where I used to work for the UN, and a senior official was like waiting to have like a meeting. And the first thing that he did was to comment on my appearance in order to establish that, he had a higher ground, etc., which of course you just completely ignore and do your work. So you always have this type of things, I guess. In the UN, I would say really not that much from what I hear in the private sector. But again, through our work at Future by Design, we really said we wanted to create space where women will feel fulfilled with their work and how they want to advance in their careers. And I think we'll be doing that very well. And also in the projects in which we are providing our creative services, I believe that we always give them the kind of the center, piece and amplify their voices, which has been lovely. And just one of the latest things that we've done is launch a podcast also at Future by Design, which is called Creative Women Leading Change. And if you would believe, only 1% of C-level executives in the creative industry are women. So 90% are men. And what I wanted us to do is to basically conduct also some talks, very casual talks with women who are working either in comms or in design, to share their experiences personally and professionally and where they are and now having positive impact on communities, environment, whatever that may be, and just give inspiration to some other women or men in terms of what powerful women could do and why we just deserve to have equal opportunities to education, health, everything that may be.
So many things I'm thinking of as you say that.
Yes.
And I want to give Annette a chance to jump in here too. One of the things that I remember investigating a few years ago was that in the S&P 500, so the 500 most largest or whatever, the S&P 500.
Yeah.
10% of CEOs are women. So that sounds like such a big number, but when you really think about it, that's 50 women. 50. Like, I mean, I have more than 50 women in my phone book. So when you think about, like I could call every one of these people and have them over for tea, it's crazy. And then on top of that, of those 50 women, only 2 of them were Black.
It's very hard.
And those numbers, they're not moving hardly at all. They're just static and stuck there.
It's very hard when you think about the career development. I also have a network of very strong women leaders and in different areas, right? I even have a friend here in Paris who is a baker, and she decided a year ago to promote more of her work or just share more work and her love for Paris and how she makes cakes, bakes, etc. And she gained 1 million followers within a year just because people resonated with that. So it's really fun to see what we can do. But at the same time, one of my best friends here, she's American, she's a lawyer, and it hasn't been easy. She did not have a single day of maternity leave, but because she's a top #1 lawyer for her company, she travels all over the world. She is impressive, really. But it is very, very hard if you want to include motherhood in the puzzle of your life and also strive to have a really high position and focus on your career development. It's really, really not easy. It requires a lot of support.
Yes, it requires a lot of support that doesn't come naturally. It's support that you have to secure on your own, right? Your company, at least here in the United States, is not going to support you. There's no paid time that is standard across all of our states or provinces. So women have to seek that support outside, and often for, I want to say the everyday woman, right? Not the CEO, not the super powerful attorney. It costs just as much to have that support as it does to be employed. And
yes,
that's really where that heavy burden and that decision point to walk away sometimes comes in. And then I'm seeing lots of career women say, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to focus on my family. I'm going to focus on me. And then I'm going to find in the pockets of time I have the ability to create something, or to freelance, or to gig economy it and do something that interests me. Are you seeing that at all across the globe?
I think it really depends on the countries and on the continents. But again, it's really not easy. In Serbia, for example, we have 1 year paid leave when women go on maternity leave. But for example, still myself as the owner of the company, I did not have that. I started having client calls when my second baby was 3 weeks old. And, I often worked at really crazy hours. I'm not really sure if it was 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. or during the day. And so I just said to the team, look, I will be sending you my messages and feedbacks at very random hours. It does not mean that you need to look at it, but it just means that was a moment where I could actually devote myself to respond and to be involved. But it has been like really, really intense if you don't have that. And yeah, I do fully understand that having support, if it's not provided by the government, that it's very hard. And if it's privately hired, it's very expensive. And it is true that for a lot of women, then they need to basically decide either or. And of course, everyone has a choice. It's beautiful if someone just find themselves more fulfilled as a mother, that's great. But if it comes to finances and you don't have other choice, then you feel where instead of paying someone else, I would rather be with my child because I'll take care of him or her in a better way than someone I would pay. So again, it's not easy being a woman. And I think that's why I realized, especially as an expat, like that some of the conversations I really enjoy most is always with women in different industries, in different phases of life. And just when we come together, we just realize how much we share and how nice it is, even if we're grabbing a dinner, to just like share where we're at, what's happening, and just that we're all kind of going through similar things. And I think that supports. So again, thank you so much for your podcast and sharing the stories. I think it will helps a lot of women to hear that.
And I think the important thing to remember in all of this, and I feel like sometimes it gets lost, it's easy to say, oh, well, that's a choice, you should be making it, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is the further away a woman gets from a career, a job, the harder it becomes for her to maintain economic independence. And that some people might say, well, she has a partner, she has a spouse, whatever. But the reality is, what happens when the spouse, we don't even have to look at divorce, right? What happens if something happens to the spouse, like the spouse is injured and cannot work, or worse yet, the spouse is deployed somewhere and not available to the family. The family becomes separated through an act of war or some other event. Or, heaven forbid, the spouse passes away. And now we have a woman who's been out of the workplace for a period of time, has lost some of her economic leverage, having to raise a family.
Exactly. It's very, very difficult topic. And I can also see it from my own experience. My father passed away at the age of 51 from lung cancer. He never smoked in his life. And it has been very devastating for our family and also for my mother, who was 45 at the time. Having lost her partner, they were together for a very long time. And as you said, they were building companies together, but at the same time, she was bringing up my brother and I, which was beautiful in itself. But it is very, very hard. If you then need to kind of take the reign of leading a company again, etc. After some time, it can be intimidating. And that's why, again, I'm saying at Future by Design, what we try to do on a very, very small scale, at least internally, is to make sure that if someone delivered a baby, is having maternity leave, or just coming back, to really try to have this flexible approach and, to see how we work in advance. There are even like vacation days, so they can use them, just because I understand also personally that it's always better to especially have amazing employees who just, are exceptional and want to stay and want to work, instead of just saying it doesn't work. You're not here 9 to 5. we have our separate ways, and then we just finish there. So there's definitely a lot of understanding needed. But I think that as women, we have definitely certain empathy in our leadership that maybe is not seen in some other places. And I think that brings also a lot of value in the workplace.
Absolutely. And talk a little bit about how you bring this perspective as a woman, as a mother, who's gone through some challenges. How do you bring that into your work, and how does it touch the creative work
That was very
do?
interesting. Recently, this year for the International Women's Day, I was contacted by a platform called Creative Boom. They're really fantastic for everyone who wants to follow everything latest on trends in terms of the creative industry. And they asked me, did motherhood shape or change my creativity? And that was very interesting because I did not really think about that at that time. And so I sat down and really thought about it and realized that, yes, being a mother definitely means that once you finish work, or at least I make a pause before I go back to checking everything in the evening. You play with Legos, you play with Play-Doh, you read books, you're singing, you're playing with dinosaurs. You are being a dinosaur, and they're on your back, and you're going through your house. So it definitely, especially answering their questions, it's really like gives you a new perspective on life, which I think it's really, really fantastic. And I really try in my work. Sometimes I write articles for LinkedIn and participate in some podcasts, etc. I try not to bring in too much of the motherhood perspective. So it does not look for women who simply, do not want to be mothers or cannot be mothers, that I'm just saying like, this is how it should look like, and this is a fulfilled life. No, for me, it's a very fulfilled life in my own context. But it does shape a lot of my thinking and view on reality. And I'm sure that it just made me have even more empathy to focus on the topics I already deeply cared about. But especially bringing to this world two little human beings and taking care of them. And especially the first son, he was born really, really tiny, premature. So I think that, again, extra gives you a boost in terms of kind of this caring mother's role.
Yeah, I love that perspective on it. And how do you get that? I mean, I think it would be hard to step away from it. You said you try not to like put it as the first thing that you do, but wouldn't it be more, I'm thinking it's more empathetic, more of a compassionate approach. And I think that could benefit all of us in these times where people are very confrontational and there's lots of uncertainty and confusion in the world. Having somebody with a more empathetic or compassionate approach would be
it's just so nice.
Exactly what we need. Yes, it is nice.
Exactly. And I mean, you can really see it like in small details, right? In our office, like I was not able to go there during my second pregnancy. Then we reallocated from one country to another, etc. I was doing my residence permits, all the administrative stuff. So I had a period of time I could not go and actively, physically be with the team in Serbia. And so when I went there, I was like, okay, we need some flowers here. We need some candles here. We could put a rug here because it will look more homey. All of these small things, I think it really makes a difference. And it was fun because some of our male colleagues, they were saying, do you think we really need a rug? And then once we put it in, they say, okay, we take it back. It's actually really nice when we take our coffee. It's just like, it's top floor. We have beautiful sunshine. Even if it's raining, it's nice. And you just, I think I don't know if it's everyone, I don't know if it's every woman, but it just makes me feel comfortable to be in a workplace also that does not look like a home, but it has this feel to it that you just feel comfortable being in it. We spend so many hours working. So I think that's one part of the leadership. And I may also share that, yesterday we had really, really great feedbacks from clients, and they just kept sending us emails. They were very happy. They said like, oh, you're superstars and so on. And I said to the team, okay, like this is a moment you need to celebrate. And so I actually went in my application here in Paris, but that was actually delivering things in Serbia. So I just sent them some cakes. And so they were surprised. Someone knocked on their door and cakes arrived. I was like, you know what, for this positive feedback, you need to celebrate with your coffee, take some cakes. So yeah, I think small things like this really make a difference in the end of the day.
Yeah.
They make a huge difference. Yeah.
That attention to detail, that extra touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what sets people apart in business too, right? Having that special touch or remembering that detail that somebody shared can be so empowering and really make you feel like, oh, they heard me. They understand what I need. They're on my side. Yeah.
Exactly. But every time we start a call with some partners or clients, I really spend at least 5 minutes just, chatting with them, where they are, what's the weather, what's happening, how's their family and so on. But honestly, just because I really like to talk to them. And it's really not like I'm trying to have the small talk going, etc. I generally really care. And I think that they all know that. And we have like many years now relationships with everyone that we work with. We keep on working with, and I think they know that. And I think also one of the things that what we've done at Future by Design, like every time a client would come and they would say, I don't know, you work on design, but we have this event space and we need 3D modeling, we need interior design, and we need an architect to do this. Can you do this for us? Can you also, print something for us and ship it? Like we need it in Egypt, or we need this in Brazil and so on. We always say, of course, just don't worry about it. We'll do it all. And I think that's what really makes me happy is having this global network of partners in so many different fields, and just making sure that whoever we're working with is very comfortable, because they know that we're kind of a connector and we'll just take care of it and they don't have to worry about it, and it's going to be very high quality. So that was fun as well on the side of Future by Design, establishing these partnerships. And recently, even from our senior comms lead, I heard, you're really not a typical company. The way you're hiring people, the way you're finding like talent and so on, it's not the usual traditional style. And I said, like, I know, but sometimes we just see what we love and we just reach out and we say, well, we really love this. We can jump on a call if we ever have a possibility to work together. Let's do it. And yeah, just right now we're working with an amazing Brazilian artist who is going to work with us on a large project launching in November. So I can share more soon with you. But yeah, that has been really, really fun, making this network as well of partners and collaborators. And I think that's why our clients always felt that like at home and that we take care of them.
Mm-hmm. Is it fair to say that being an entrepreneur, starting your own business, starting your own agency has allowed you to see where there were like false barriers set up before? And now you're like, oh my gosh, I just love that person. I'm going to reach out because I can. And, but, before in a more traditional career, we would have been like, oh, we need a job posting first. We can't just reach out. And now those barriers, those obstacles.
I mean, the world is your oyster, Honestly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I really, really love that. Like one day, a few years ago, partners said, oh, we're not on Slack anymore because they raised their prices. It costs this much. We went to Discord. It's free of charge. It's exactly the same thing. And I was like, well, why not? And within the same day, I moved everyone to Discord, and, like our entire team and our partners, everyone is there. So that has been fun, really. As you said, like if you want to make some decisions, you think about it reasonably, but you can make any decision you'd like. And that's also like, for example, with this initiative, we Creative Women Leading Change, it was like end of last year. And I thought, also in the United States, everything happening with women reproductive rights, health rights, I was thinking, and we're looking at one of the most developed countries in the world, and still you don't have maybe access to certain services that one would want. And it's not just about gender equity, it's about women empowerment. I thought like that's still something we need to talk about. And as a CEO and as a founder of an agency, I could say, well, I still want to invest some of my time and my team's time into like launching this initiative, even if it's not our core business. So that's really rewarding. Of course, it's also challenging, especially because we had a pandemic in 2020. We really wanted to ensure that when a lot of the projects were like closed, excuse me, I'm a bit sick, when they were closed and or postponed, that no one is getting fired. And it takes a lot of planning, and you need to be savvy when it comes to finances. But yeah, you have a lot of freedom to make choices.
I'm struck by your comment around Discord. Annette and I run a networking organization, a chapter, and we recently moved to Discord. Now, I have 3 children. They're all teens. And when they found out I was on Discord, it was like, what are you doing on Discord? Mom, you're not supposed to be on that. It's for young people.
Right? Something they wouldn't expect. But that's what makes it great.
Yes. That is true. Yes, that's what makes it great.
So
but I love that freedom, that concept that you can do what you need to do. It's thoughtful, but it's not weighed down with a bunch of bureaucracy and red tape, right? You're in the driver's seat. And maybe that's what's so attractive. And maybe that's what's pulling women away from traditional 9-to-5 kind of roles, is that freedom of decision, time freedom, right? Trying to decide how you spend your day, working asynchronous, right? Maybe working overnight and then having your daytimes free. This is a real change. And I think that all of the conditions that got us here, the pandemic, changes in our rights, those things are forcing some other changes that I don't even know we'll know the impact of right away.
Honestly, I think, especially with the AI, and I'm looking at the new generation, like I'm really curious how the future will look like. But yeah, it's definitely changing, and I see it with the pandemic that a lot of things have changed. Myself personally, I really love going to the office. I really find it so cool to be around people, and if you have a great team, that's really, really lovely. But of course, not everyone's able to do that. So because we're a global team, what we try to do, we always have like regular checking calls. I try to travel every few weeks to be there with the team, which is really great. We always try to do some extra activities on the side, like, ceramics or bowling or painting and so on, which is really great. But yeah, it's quite interesting, and the era in which we live in, that we can have our laptop, and especially if you're working in the digital industry, that's the only thing you need to do. Open your laptop, connect to the world, and that's very empowering.
How do you think your sons are being impacted by you being a leader within your organization? How are they seeing women differently than perhaps how your brother saw them growing up with a mother who was also in business, than perhaps maybe some of their own peers who have moms that maybe have different options?
I do hope that they will see a very positive role model. And I do hope they will feel proud and happy for their mother one day when, they're a bit more grown up. They're 5 and 2 months, let's say. So they're quite tiny, but they do understand, especially the older one, when I need to work and what I do. And after a very long time, it's been like 5 years, I actually haven't been apart from my children. And I started traveling again for work. And before having children, I used to travel like 2-3 times a month all over the world. So that has been a huge change for me, also becoming a mother. But I see and I feel that it's a very, very good example for them. And I do hope that will show them how important it is to find a good partner in life. And that could be one of the most important decisions they will ever make. And I just hope for them, that they can also find someone who will just be a good partner and very understanding and smart. And I also want them to see that I do what I love and that it makes me happy. I do feel that I would have a specific, let's say, a creative pain if I was not working. So I think that makes them happy. And it's actually fun when you ask now even like how they react, because on our social media, I believe on Instagram, our team just launched like a small part of our first podcast episodes of Creative Woman Leading Change. And it was me speaking about, like in 10, 15 seconds, why we do this and for whom is it. And my little one, who is 2 years old, he saw it on my mom's phone because she's visiting at the moment. And he said, "Oh, it's mommy." And he started kissing the phone and he was so happy and so on. So yeah, he was very, very proud, because he knows that on the phone we have something like, the internet, the world and so on. So he saw his mom. So he was very proud and he was caressing the screen, so on. So I think at least for what I'm trying to interpret from this is that they're being happy and proud.
Absolutely. And I think what you are showing them is such an important role model, not just for themselves, but absolutely for the most important decision they'll make. Who's your partner? And, what is our role as partners in a committed relationship, right? Not just for women, but for men too, right?
Absolutely. And I think it really becomes a very healthy relationship as well. As you mentioned at one point, having a financial independence means everything, no matter how loving the relationship is. I still believe that when woman has a choice and financial independence, you just have an equal standing in the relationship. And the moment you lose that, it just becomes quite an equilibrium. And yeah, it's very, very difficult to maintain. And I think that, that's what, again, I'm very happy that my partner from the very beginning, since we've met, he was always extremely happy that I was driven by work and always like hardworking and believed in what I do. And he was always very, very supportive when I decided to step out of the great UN role and launch a company. And I think that's great. So he had a very strong role model as well for his mother, who was working. And I hope that my boys have that too one day.
They have it now.
Like they do. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Well, tell us how we can get in touch with you, where we can learn and listen to the podcast. What's the best way to reach you?
I would say that it's the easiest on LinkedIn. So if anyone would be interested to just drop me a message, ask any questions, or pitch an idea about what they're thinking about and just want a sounding board, I'll be more than happy. I'm always so happy to meet so many people from, different countries and different industries. So LinkedIn would be the best place. And for our podcast, we actually launched it across Spotify and Apple Podcast, and it's on YouTube and on Amazon Music as well. So whatever works for you and what you prefer. And I do hope you enjoy it. We have a very, very exciting episode coming up next week with the Global Communications and Marketing Officer Director from the B Lab. They are the organization in charge of issuing certification for B Corps that talk about the responsible business and walking the talk. So it has been a very, very exciting conversation as well. So again, I was just offering an extra venue for women to share their stories.
I love this. Mm-hmm. I just love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And how many languages do you personally speak?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm trying to count. Well, if you just count, I come from Serbia, right? So it was Yugoslavia before. So there are a lot of surrounding languages that we all speak together. So I'll just count that as one for now. And with that, also I speak English and French.
Wow. Fabulous.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me with you.
Mirjana, it was so lovely to meet you and to hear about the work that you're doing. So impressive. Thank you.
Thank you. Really, it has been a pleasure and really an honor. And thank you so much for also offering this space to so many women to share their stories. Mm-hmm.
That's a wrap on this episode of Exposing the Hidden Reality. If something hit home or made you snort laugh, tell us.
Seriously, we love hearing from you. Message us, tag us, or send us coffee. We love coffee.
And hey, leave a review. It helps more women find us and boosts our egos.
Which are like fragile, like suspiciously fragile.
True. All right, until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and if all else fails,
Bring the dog.
see
See you next time.
Wait, did we stop recording?
No, we're still here. You have to push the red button.
Red button. Cool. Just eternal podcast.
Bye.
Bye.